have 2 more Lithops here. These are from my friend Erin. If you saw that unboxing video, she sent me these a few months ago. And I wasn't going to repot them, but they're behaving just a little bit weird. This one, they're feeling like the bodies are pretty small, and so I'm not really, and the roots really aren't looking real perky, so I need to get a better view of what's going on. And so this is how I get a better view of my roots. I know it looks scary, like I've said in other videos. Get these in here. It seems scary because you're not supposed to water these guys a bunch, but it is really, really important to get an idea of what is going on with their roots before you determine whether they need more water, less water, whether they're ready to go completely dry for a spell, or whether they need some TLC to get their roots developing again. And with as much soil that came off these guys, it's pretty obvious they're going to need a little bit of TLC. If you saw my other video that I did, I'll put a link to it in the description box below if I can. But there's another video where I did, and they had, actually they're sitting right over here. They're still out, so let me just grab them in comparison real quick. These were some other guys in the same size pots, and you can see the size of roots. A lot more roots, right, for a similar amount of plant. Now granted, some of these have a couple heads and these are just one, but you want really white fuzzy root hairs. These brownish, just kind of blah, yellowish, brownish roots aren't necessarily dead all the time, but they're also not a good sign either. And if you got this plant just like this from Home Depot or wherever, and left it in its pot and didn't water it because it was winter, it would probably end up dying. Now, it would take quite a long time to do that, as these take a long time to shrivel back once their roots die. But once this connection here shrivels to the point where the nutrients can't get from the roots back to the body of the plant, there's really no hope in saving it, and they always just die from there. And you really can't tell unless you pull them out of the pot and look. These guys look great around the base, so that's good, but their roots are not developing. So I'm going to give this guy a water. Both of these guys are going to get a water. They're going to go into a really loose mix, probably just pure pumice with both of these so that I can spritz them fairly often. This guy, as you can see, had some damage here, which people have asked if they split or if they get, a chunk taken out of them, does that mean they're going to die? And no, it doesn't. As long as it heals and doesn't get infected, which is the main reason that cuts end up being fatal, is because of infection, not because of the actual cut itself. And so as long as the wound calluses over just fine and the plant doesn't get infected, and as long as it didn't damage too deep into the main meristem, or if there's a new set of leaves forming and it went in and damaged those, sometimes then the plant won't survive. But as long as it's just the outer set of leaves that's damaged, then it'll look kind of ugly for a year until it gets a new set of leaves. But after that, it should shed off, and the inner leaves are usually very, very good, or just minimally with a minimal scarring. So because of these guys' roots, they are going to get watered with, actually I'll show you. I talk a lot about vitamin B1, and that's actually not my preferred rooting solution. This is what I've been using lately since I've been ill, because it's easy to get here, and it's really the only thing that I was able to get locally that kind of potentially has an effect on roots. Now, the studies show that it's pretty hit or miss as to whether the plants actually benefit from this or not. For me, it seems to matter what species they are. Some of them seem to care, and some of them really don't care at all. But there's a fair amount of studies showing that it's beneficial for rooting, and there's a fair amount of studies showing it does absolutely nothing. So this actually isn't, while I've mentioned it quite a lot because it happens to be what I had, it actually isn't my favorite, and it's not what I would 100% recommend. It's fine to start. If you can find it locally, great. It's better than pure water in my opinion, and when you're trying to stimulate root growth, and it's pretty cheap. What I prefer to use, which I used to make my own, was a willow extract. willow trees have some amazing rooting benefits, and if I can find a couple articles, I will try and link to them in the description box below, and maybe just do a whole separate video on this at some point. But I hadn't, I should say, been able to find a commercial product that was comparable to making your own. And so I grabbed this because I was too sick to make my own or care about that. And this is what I've been using. However, I just found a new solution which I am trying out. It's called Tappin' Roots. And it is marketed as a fertilizer. You can see natural all-stage plant fertilizer. And so I had seen it, I don't even remember where I had seen this talked about, and I was like, well, but I'm looking for a willow solution, not a fertilizer. Well, they just add, this is mostly, primarily, let's see here. I don't know if they tell on this actual bottle. They probably don't want to give away their ingredients, but on the website they talk about their ingredients, and it's primarily willow extract, and a composition of that, and kelp, I believe, and a couple other very similar, pretty light things like kelp that I use for my succulents a fair amount anyway, so I decided to go ahead and try it. It's gotten really good reviews, and there's a lot more research that I am like, okay, that's legit on willow extract and willow trees. You can just make a tea out of it and just use it to water your plants or use it to root cuttings in. And this is a great fertilizer just to stimulate root growth for anything, but it's also what I'm using when stuff like this happens and I'm needing to stimulate root growth instead of the bee, since I have it now. And so if you are going out to buy something and you can get something like this, a willow extract, I would recommend it more. Although this brand, again, it's new, so I'm just testing it out. I will let you guys know as the time goes on if I like this particular brand before. But as a compound, willow as opposed to B1 has more reliable evidence behind it, proving to stimulate new root growth. So, yep, and you can actually use this for cutting seedlings, and then they have a rate for whether you're wanting vegetative growth or flowering, and then you can use it as a foliar spray also. So if you're watering from the top, it won't hurt your plants if it gets some on their leaves, which is nice because some fertilizers can burn leaves if it gets on them. So that is what I'm going to be using on these guys. I am going to give them a water because there's just no new root growth, and leave them for a couple of weeks in a loose gritty mix. I may actually put these guys into gritty mix instead of pumice. I think I'm going to do that and just see how they do. And the gritty mix is a little bit easier for me to check their roots on when I'm needing to take a peek on guys like this. And so I think I might do that with these guys instead of pumice. And I have a few others that I'm going to do pumice on if their roots look a little bit happier, I think. If I don't plan on having to take them in and out, then I do like pumice or a pumice mixture. I do mix a little bit of peat into my pumice to give it a little bit of acidity sometimes. But, yep. Alrighty, well first I am going to let these guys dry off. I always should mention that. They're going to go in front of a little mini fan that I have drying off some other roots, and dry out for probably 24 hours just to get any damage that occurred calloused off before I plant them up. That helps prevent infections, just as a FYI. So I'm going to do that first, and then they're going to go pot it up and get a little bit of a drink. Not a big soak, and the mix that they're in won't hold much anyways, but they're going to get a bit of a drink with this new willow solution. Alrighty, I think that is it for today. I will talk to you guys soon, and happy growing!